Hello everyone, my name's Tris and welcome to episode 14 of the series. If you haven't caught the series so far, we are building a small layout which fits on my work table, which I do my hobby things on, which is 1.20 meters in length. And I've got an extension piece here which can fold out to fill the gap that I normally walk around to get to my desk. This allows me to then have a bit of fun in my spare time, first of all working on it, like building it up, and then running locos, and with a view that I could take it to a show if it was worthy of something like that. During all of these things that we do, we get to practice certain exercises. So things that are coming up on this will be eventually like ballasting and stuff like that, but making little buildings that are different styles to something that you haven't already done. Or if you're new to the hobby, you can experiment and not taking up too much room in the process. Building a model railway doesn't have to be a large project. It can be something that it could be tiny. You could just have a single piece of track with some small buildings and just to experience the techniques. And it depends if you've come from other hobbies, want to keep your hands busy working on things, or you've never done it before. There's loads of areas that you can get in and ways to get in. So if you want to do buildings but you're not interested in painting and cladding with bricks and stuff like that, you go down the Metcalfe route, where the Metcalfe wonderful buildings that are done are all card and you can put them together, whereas you can go various steps to the point of scratch building. And yeah, so obviously I'm going off on a tangent on that one, but my point is, we're here to have fun, and I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to this point. On this episode, my plan is we have this area here that goes further back past where the camera's looking, and we're going to put effectively the hard standing, the concrete or tarmac road that's going to be sitting outside. We're going to use Foamex to do this. I believe it's called Foamex. It's a brand name for a spongy, well, it's not too spongy actually, it's pretty tough. It's like a plasticky cardboard that you can cut and work with really, really easy. You can indent it and so on. Dan Everson from Tunnel Lane Model Railways, he showed me this when I went and visited him a little while back. It's been a really good material to use for quick structures and various other ways of going, bits on the layout, which, roads and things like that. It's slightly bendy when you work with it, and it's kind of just really easy to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to an important area, which is just here. So if you haven't already seen these are my petite property buildings that I bought. I put the paper, or the papers, on the outside of the to create the brickwork on it, and then we add the roof tile separately as well. Thoroughly enjoyable process to do, and I recommend it to anyone just to get one together and go from there. I have a view to add lights and things in there as well. One that I do want to do is I want to add one more building. It's out of stock at the moment, so I've clicked notify me when in stock. So what I will do is actually do the road first and we can add it afterwards and then go from there and figure out any other details if we have to at the time. But it's a warehouse that they do. It's $9.99, so it's an absolute bargain, and I'm looking forward to building it up because I think it will finish off this suite of houses, and it's nice to stick with the petite properties, so it's similar styles as you do it. At the end here we have a small car park where we have my Fiesta and a Mini in there, and then the road will basically, they'll come on around the buildings and they can go here, and then there'll be some grass and a small pathway to the track with the ballast. Going to be working things out in its different areas, so kind of happy with how it's all working out in my mind. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Foamex on and show you my cut out pieces that I've put here, and we'll do the fun bit really and add the ballast and things like that. Well, the ballast, but the textured bits we're going to add to it to make it a nice road surface. At the moment, I've been just placing these things here, or these buildings. I've labelled them A, so I know which way around they're all going. So when I kind of place it on each time, I've got an idea. I've made marks. What I did was I cut out some of this Foamex to work its way around the shape of the track. I've got a bit of excess sticking over the sides, but that's okay. It's not going to offend anyone. It's not going to offend me. So then I place all my pieces on here. The idea is that I'll glue it down and it'll be rigid, and then we're going to add our texture to it. The nice thing is this surface is already got little pits and things on it, which is great. So I'm wondering, with a coat of something on there, how it will look. Next to it, where it joins the track, the ballast will connect up to it, and my plan is to have a finer dusty ballast that kind of comes into the edges, and it kind of almost blends together. So what I'm thinking I'll do is I'll chamfer this edge a little bit, so then the ballast meets it nicely. There was a bit of a comment from people saying obviously the cars and things could drive, you know, pretty close to the rail or even on the rail if they have to. You know, you could fill in some of this area as well to make it, you know, really reachable. But I thought I'm not too worried about that. I think if I just do it so there's no, you know, they just run off a system of respect, that they, you know, they avoid the wagons and things in the rails. Like most things, when I glue them together, I like using super glue. It bonds quickly and it allows me to get on with the job. PVA glue takes time to dry, and a lot of the time I don't have a lot of spare time. So I run the glue over here, and now I need to put it down in a way that obviously I don't have much working time with it. So I'll butt it up to the point that I'm happy, and I'll put it down. Obviously have a window open. If you've got a fan, you could have that blowing the kind of fumes of the super glue away from you. That's always handy. But I just push that down and that will hold it on. You can use Yoo-hoo to glue it, but I understand you need to use the foam safe Yoo-hoos. But super glue has been alright so far when I've done it. And hot glue guns as well are very good in this hobby, and very much so with this material as well. It sticks really nicely with the hot glue guns. So we'll see how well it glues with this, but it should be fine. So I bring it up to here. The super glue will kind of spill out a little bit, and that's fine, and we can wipe off the excess. I like it to have a nice bond between the two, so I'm going to run a bit extra on that crack, not that you can see it so much, the camera's a bit further away. And then just get a bit of tissue. Bear in mind that tissue likes to smoke a little bit when it gets super glue on it. It kind of sets off really quickly. So that'll be that. We'll let that dry. You can use activator if you want. And now we'll move on to the ballasting stage, or the road surface stage. So we're at this stage. I've chiseled off the edges here. I've got some sand ready. Some little bits of ballast is mixed in with this one. And all I'm going to do is use some super glue, and I'll be dropping it down the little gaps and sprinkling it in. Obviously we need to use an applicator so we can do it in a nice way. We also want to get it onto a broad area here. What I've kind of got here is the markings of where the buildings are going to be. So I don't put too much up in the wrong places. If I do add anything on here, it needs to be really consistent and flat. And then we can work out a way of blending the buildings in afterwards. I don't really want to glue the buildings down now and then get glue all over them and ballast up the sides of the walls. That doesn't make any sense. We're trying to add some texture to the road. So I'll try and do it in a nice way. Now I'm going to just drop it down into the gaps to begin with on here. I want to almost do a bit of the ballast work early on. Just remember, around the mechanism, we don't want to stop anything from doing its action, so we just be careful around there. So we've encroached a little bit up on here. And what I'm going to do, I've got some sand from the beach, and I'm going to sprinkle it in. And like the excess, we can just hoover off afterwards. So that should work out very nicely for that. I'm going to work my way across the track and do this surface, so we'll see how that turns out, but it shouldn't be too difficult. What you find is the sand goes off very quickly when it goes on, so you can like brush off the area, you know, it's all gone dry. Now what I want to do is do a lot more of this area here. We want to be able to mush around the super glue so it's not too thick, and then we can scatter it onto these areas and make a kind of a stony possibly poorly kept road anyway. So we'll drop this on and we'll just do a bit at a time and work our way round. You can always come back and add more later, but the nice thing is we can start with something, work our way across and add where we don't like it. Sand is stuck down. The surface is pretty much dry. I'll use a bit of activator before starting to paint it, but that'll be the next stage. You'll see some messy bits, don't worry about that. I think when we paint it, it all becomes one uniform colour. The beauty of, after painting it, we can see where bad areas are. Some bits I put too much sand on it, built up too high. I got worried that the wagon wouldn't go over it, but I tested it, so that was okay. Again, like in real life, things aren't perfect, so I've got deviation on here. So you got your pits and troughs, and ruts and bumps. Over here, I'm gonna have that other building, so I wasn't too worried about how that comes out because I can readdress that once the building's there and add some bits in here. Like I said, I've left some room around where the buildings are, so hopefully we can kind of make that work, and if not, we'll learn by our mistakes. So now I'm going to paint it using some acrylics. I've got a range here. I've got various ones. I've got one here called Sea Grey, and I won't just be doing grey, so you can drop in a little bit of brown when you do it, and then you've got your other kind of creamy colours. So what we got here, I've got some earth yellow. So what I will do is basically, first of all, I'll activate it, and then we'll just start dabbing in bits, mixing it around and generate a certain colour, then come back later and dry brush it. The nice thing is that these are dropper bottles. So I'm going to drop little droplets on here. And any colours that go wrong for us, we can always add some other colours afterwards. Ultimately, grey is the colour we're going to go for, because that's kind of the colour of like the gravelly stuff. But the gravel could be browny and stuff like that. We need to give this paint pot a mix. There we go, a bit more grey there. And that will work its way in. And then we have our last colour here, which is our, earth yellow. We'll add that in and we'll just paint up the surface and see how it all works out. I'm just going to mix them around here, a few different colours, and we'll just see what it looks like really at the end. So just work the surface, work the colours together. Don't be afraid to make a mess. You can always paint over the bits that you didn't want to paint over. I'll try not to get over the track too much, but that will get painted at a later stage. Okay, so at the moment it's a patchwork quilt, but we can blend it all together bit by bit. So I'm going to work my way over this, and once I'm done, I'll show you how it looks, and then we'll do a bit of dry brushing, see if we can bring it to life. That layer of paint is dried. You can see the patchiness of where we have bits without the grit and bits with. I kind of want that because it will catch the eye when people look around. And if I really don't like this, I can always have a go at doing this again. The bit I'm worried about is actually when you grab the building and you set it on here, how is it going to look? Are we going to have horrible, nasty gaps at the front? Get that into view. I think it's going to be all right because we can work it all in. So I think that's going to be fine. With the building, so I just hold the camera carefully. With the building, we can always add a little bit of ballast up the edge with a bit of PVA glue, so we've got some working time with this eventually, and we can build it into the layout. This will finally get stuck down. My plan for this, like I've said about before, I'd like to take the roof off, maybe put something inside the building and have some lights in place, and do that for the other two that are over there. So what I'm going to do now is dry brushing, which is where I get a brush, I take off most of the paint, and I think people sometimes call it overbrushing if there's a bit of paint on there, and we're going to catch the tops and make it just have a bit more kind of texture. So for the dry brushing, I'm using not the airbrush paints I use, which are thinner, but a thicker paint here. This is green ochre, so I thought that'd be a nice kind of colour to pick out the tops. What we do is we get a little bit on, this is like a makeup brush, it's from like some painting companies that they do. What we want to do is only have a little bit on the brush. Obviously if we go straight on here, we'll end up drawing or painting lines. So what we do is you take the most off there, so you've got stuff on the top, and what we're going to do is going to do it to the point where we're now dusting the top of it. And we can change colour of it slightly. So there's a slight shade there. We'll work our way along. I will then use other shades, so then we can go lighter and lighter and lighter. Introduce a little bit more back onto the brush. Not much there. Just work our way around. And the nice thing is it picks out all the little tops there. So I'm going to go over this with the different colours and shades, and hopefully this will look nice. Very nice, hopefully. So that's looking all right. I'm happy with how the buildings sit on the what would be the road. Obviously we can see little shadows under, but I can add in like shrubbery and other bits like I said before. And then we've got our car park at the end with the Fiesta and the Mini sitting there. And this bit's I've kind of left it a little bit, so when the building comes I can then add in what I feel I need to, so that'd be fine. Adding the ballast up to the edge here, you'll see that you can see kind of the sleepers bump up through here, so I might come in later on more delicately with PVA, add some of the sand in with that to try and make it look nice. I'm not sure if I like the brown going into the lighter colour, but you know, ballast and gravel with all sorts of different colours. I'm sure this is quite a yellowy one, and I might have to knock that back a bit. I just want to say a big thank you for everyone watching the channel. I've enjoyed doing this process. I'm thinking I'll probably adjust the brightness of that yellow, like I said, but we can come to that another day. I finished that for now. That's the end of the episode. Thank you to my subscribers, the people that like and comment. The comments help the video grow, as well as the likes, as well as the watching. And this series has given me a lot of enthusiasm to keep pushing along and doing small bite-sized steps, around 15 minutes long, 15 to 20, depends on how much I ramble on for. Big thank you to my channel members and my patrons. If you'd like to support the channel, you can through Patreon and through the join button below. That obviously helps these episodes come into existence. So thank you for your support already. Anyway, you take care, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.